Hi, this is Coach Blocker with Dominate the Trenches. This is sort of a recap of sorts of the weekend. Just wanted to recap a few games that were really kind of catching my eye as I was watching them. Of course, I'm going to start with the Miami-Michigan State game, then followed by the Michigan Northern Illinois game. Also, the Penn State Auburn game really caught my attention. And looking at the Michigan State versus Miami game, Miami started off really strongly, and I felt, watching the game, they were going to assert themselves. I felt like this was the one game that they could have where all the different facets of the game, special teams, defense, offense, would come together, and I felt like they would play their most complete game. Well, they started off strong, and a lot of the same, errors and mistakes that we've sort of been accustomed to seeing Miami make the last few games, that kind of came to fruition. Talent is not the issue with Miami. We all agree. I think we would all agree they have one of the better rosters in the ACC and really in the country. Not the top roster in the country, but I would say they're within the top 12 to 15 rosters in the country. And a lot of the things that you see on film, especially on defense, the missed tackles, some of the penalties, some of the different things that you'll see through the course of a game, really speaks to a lack of discipline, I feel, on the part of the players and even from the coaching standpoint. Because if you either, allowing it to happen or you're teaching it, one or the other, so that is something that really needs to be corrected. I know a lot of people are, kind of down on Manny Diaz and want him to, be fired and, all of those sorts of things. But, I was a big Manny Diaz believer initially. I'm not totally down on him yet because I want to see how the rest of the season will play out. There are a lot of coaches, when they start, year three, sometimes, it takes a little bit of time to build. Now, I do understand that there are a lot of issues and a lot of deficiencies that need to be corrected. And we haven't seen it thus far. And I understand the grumblings of the fan base and a lot of those guys wanting him to be fired. And so I'm not going to dispute that. I totally, fully understand why. This is the results-based business. And if you don't get the results, more than likely you're going to be let go. But in saying that, I do really feel like on Saturday, I saw some positives, but also some things that just can't continue to happen if they want to actually, have a decent year and turn this thing around. I was really impressed with Michigan State as well. I did not believe they were a great team initially. Just looking at the film, there was nothing that really jumped out at me other than Kenneth Walker, the running back, and the quarterback. I thought was a pretty good player, and I felt like they were really well coached. Well, when I saw them, up close in person on television, they had a little more speed than I thought they had. Overall from a team, aspect, I still think Miami has more speed. But to me, the difference in the game was how well coached they were. They were really well coached on a lot of the things that we were trying to do. Even when Charleston Rambo was getting all those catches, I felt like they didn't mind him getting those catches because they were making sure that they didn't get beat over the top. They played really disciplined for pretty much the entire game. And Miami had an opportunity to really take control of the game, and they didn't do it. And so as you let a team sort of build their confidence and play with you, when you have, arguably the better talent, this is what occurs. And in the end, the team that was the most disciplined won, which was Michigan State. So congratulations to Michigan State. And I really think they're going to have a pretty good year this year. The Big Ten, to me, there's a few teams that are strong, but there's no team that's overwhelmingly better than another, in my opinion. So I think they could have a really big year. Starting off 3-0 is a big deal. Also, the Michigan Northern Illinois game. Now, this game in particular was impressive because I was sort of taken aback by Michigan's offensive line. And Michigan has some skill guys, and they have they play pretty good defense as well. But I was really taken back by the physicality of Michigan's offensive line. They have not been throwing the ball a lot at all. They've been running quite a bit. In fact, Jim Harbaugh, in a press conference, somebody asked him a question like, Coach, you only threw the ball X number of times. And he said, some people travel by air, some people travel by ground. I start laughing so hard because I'm saying to myself, he's absolutely right. They have been pounding people, running the ball with amazing efficiency. I don't exactly know the number. I have to look it up. The per carry average. They've been blasting people. So I'm curious to see if they can continue to keep it up, because when you face some of some better teams with better front sevens, they're going to have a little bit more of an issue trying to stick to that. But so far, I'm really impressed with Michigan. They won this past game 63-10, I believe, and they didn't throw for a lot of yards, but they ran for quite a few. I was really impressed with that. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do the rest of the year. And my third matchup, just a quick point and thought of thinking about it, was Penn State and Auburn. Generally speaking, when you see an SEC school playing a Big Ten school, it's not usually favorable for the Big Ten. The one thing that I was noticing, and maybe this is, James Franklin, he's been building up that roster. Penn State had a lot of speed on the field. I was really impressed by their physicality and their speed. I was impressed with Auburn as well. To me, when Auburn, has a new coach and whole entire new staff, and when you see people, or when you see coaches in general, go to new programs, it's not always a great thing when you first get there. Like you have to build up the roster to get, you got to get in the guys that you want to run the systems and things that you want to run for your program. And so generally, sometimes you start off a little bit slow. Auburn has been, humming the first couple of weeks of the season. They didn't have a really rough schedule the first couple of weeks. So they, the couple of teams that they did play, they blew out. But in looking at this particular game against Penn State, I was really, really impressed with both teams. I thought Auburn was very physical at the point of attack, and I also thought Penn State was very physical at the point of attack. Penn State is actually my sleeper for the Big Ten championship. I feel like they can come out of the East. I think they're going to have some. They're going to still have to play Michigan. They're going to have to play Ohio State. But to me, right now, I feel like Penn State is the most complete team in the Big Ten. That's just my assessment off of seeing the games thus far. The final score, I believe, was 28-20. A really close game, but I was impressed with both teams. Just, some of my thoughts on a few of the games that really kind of stood out to me. There were other games that, that were on that sort of, a late game, Fresno versus UCLA. UCLA, I felt like Fresno had an opportunity to beat them as well, and they wound up beating them. I still think UCLA is a good team. I think Fresno State's a good team. West Coast games come on like really late, like 11, 12 at night sometime, depending on where you are. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching that game as well. So that was just a few games that I wanted to just sort of recap, go over. Miami, Michigan State, Northern Illinois, Michigan, Penn State, and Auburn. And then I throw in the UCLA game against Fresno State. Looking forward to what Week 4 has to offer. As always, this is Coach Blocker. Dominate the trenches. I'm out.